Good morning. This is Mark of the Wicked Edge Expert Corner Group, and this is Sunday School Knife Talk. I want to continue with this, and I'm going to try to make sense of what I started last week and see if I can bail myself out of this can of worms that I opened. The reason that I say this is that I'm trying to address the challenge that we all have, whether you use a Wicked Edge sharpener like I do, or you use some other brand of guided sharpener, or a freeform, a stone. We all have the same challenges of making a keen edge on that knife. The method I choose is a fixed angle sharpener called a Wicked Edge, and it has the same theoretical challenges that any sharpening method or device has. And what I am trying to do here with my group is to take those challenges and figure them out and boil them down and apply them to using the method of sharpening that we use on a Wicked Edge, because it is stationary, clamped rigidly, and we are able to preset the angles we want to apply to a knife edge and consistently apply that edge. If due diligence is practiced, you can apply that same exact precise edge again and again and again into perpetuity. So that's why I chose Wicked Edge. But as I learned how to sharpen and I got pretty good at using Wicked Edge, I came up with a lot of questions, a real lot of questions, theoretical questions about sharpening knives, things that had been norms, theories that were norms, that were accepted as this is the way that we did it, and not necessarily a lot of explanation that I could find in them for why these norms were adopted. Now let me just step aside. I collect Japanese chef knives for the most part. And the reason is that when I started sharpening knives, I was using mostly German steel knives, Forstners, which then got bought out by Victorinox, which is Swiss Army knives, big company. And I started with rosewood handle Forstner knives that are made in Switzerland, solid in steel, very nice knives. Most of them, not this one in particular, but most of the European, German, French knives that I had experience with had pummels. Here's a Hofritz, which is a German knife, and it has a pummel that this is down on the edge of the blade, so that limits how the blade contacts a cutting board. So eventually, as you sharpen the knife and it wears, you will have to deal with the pummel. And that becomes a challenge if you're sharpening with a Wicked Edge. It can be done, but it becomes a challenge, and that becomes something that you really want to do on a belt type of sander. So because of that situation, that limitation, this one is a Hofritz slicing knife, and I have here another example with the pummel. This one is a French knife, a Sabatier. This is a high carbon steel knife. It has a lot of patina. It's very old, very thin knife, very thin behind the edge. Nice knife, but it's a challenge to sharpen it on a Wicked Edge because of the pummel. So because of that situation, when I started looking to purchase knives that I could sharpen on Wicked Edge, and I looked to buy knives that appeared uncommon. that appeared different than what I was used to sharpening. As I learned to sharpen with Wicked Edge, I started with a Pro Pack 2, which was a Wicked Edge 120 with the micro angle adjusters. So I had the challenges of working with the standard vise, but as I learned to deal with the clamping situations, I became pretty good at it, and I looked to buy more knives that would challenge my ability to sharpen knives. I looked for knives that were difficult to clamp, that were longer, bigger, different than a typical knife to expand my sharpening knowledge. And I started with a few knives, and my excuse was, I'm looking to buy the best knife. So then I started looking for expensive knives. And then as I learned about this knife and the different steels and the different edges, I discovered the challenges of sharpening uneven bevel knives. What that is a knife that one side of the knife may be ground differently than the other side, and the bevel heights may be different from side to side as you examine it. These things I came to learn exist pretty commonly, and they are ground that way to give that characteristic edge to that knife, so that knife as designed would cut better. So there are knives of symmetrical, asymmetrical, even bevels, uneven bevels, different angles. There are all kinds of knives and considerations that we're trying to sharpen with the Wicked Edge, but we have to figure out how to do it because we're using a fixed clamping system that makes the blade stationary. So everything we do is in our angle adjustments and in our applied sharpening stroke, as compared to other methods like freeform, where you're holding the knife and there's some latitude as you're applying that edge, that it can be tipped and turned and whatever with the length of the blade and the shape of the curve as it contacts the stone. All that curving, and some guys start with a backward hook on the tip. All those things are built into the stroke. Even the Tormek users with their jigs and everything, there's a little twist. You band users, your 1x30s, 2x whatever, 2x60s, the 72 big grinder, beautiful machines, water cooled, all that, you still, even with your guides, there's a little bit there that is your contribution, that sharpener's artistic contribution, the way he does it. With the Wicked Edge, with it being stationary, it eliminates a lot of that. On the very tip and on the very heel, where your stone first contacts and last contacts, those areas may be a little more challenging. In the center, it's easier. But with Wicked Edge, what we're doing is we're picking a position and clamping it. And we're trying to choose that position, that height, that tilt, whatever. When we clamp it, we're looking to use that same position the entire sharpening session to complete that blade tip to heel in a fashion that we can clamp it again and do it again the same exact way. That in itself becomes a process of consistency, but it also becomes a challenge of a consistent method of clamping in order to use that consistent method of sharpening. And to complicate it more, you're using such a variety of knives to practice that consistent method that you use, you have to start to understand, looking at what you're sharpening and understand what it is that you're holding and what you're sharpening. That's what I'm trying to get into here. And with this knife collection, I have intentionally purchased knives of all those different edge grinds and characteristics, not all of them, but of enough of them that I can study them, look at them, compare them, and apply my sharpening method with the wicked edge on these different knives than we're used to using. With Japanese knives, it presents a challenge because we're looking to buy something from a foreign maker, and there are language barriers, there's idioms, there's descriptions, and there's differences in the tradition of the blade. So right away we have we're looking to buy something that's not real familiar to us. If you came up like me using, fishing knives and whatever, you were used to a certain kind of knife. And now I'm looking to apply it to the Japanese knives. So when I got into the Japanese knives and I started to look at the edges under the microscope and the bevels, then all those generalizations, all those theories, all those thought processes, all those norms that we had, they didn't always match up to what I was seeing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop this here, and we're going to get into some of the knives that I've collected, and I want to show you what I have here and the differences. What I've collected is, I started looking to buy, real quick, the best knife. And as I got into it, I saw that there's some cool stuff that's not necessarily the best knife that I'd be looking to collect. But I started collecting those knives because the challenge of sharpening became so interesting to me. And I'm gonna stop there and then move on to another one. Thanks.